It's the date 1943. In February, Germans lost catastrophically the Battle of Stalingrad and sealed their chances of winning the war. But the following days would doom their future even more. In Berlin, a huge rally is taking its place. At the podium, none other than the Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels himself, one of the closest men to Hitler, his right hand holding the famous Sportsballer speech, declaring the total war. Why was the yes so loud, so determined? And what illusions were the German people living in? From where did the fanaticism come from? And who built it? To answer all these questions, we need to go back in time. 1924, to be more exact. German people are going through a tough crisis. Their economy is in shambles. Paying huge debt and giving territories back because of the Versailles Trinity is not their favorite thing to do. And the overall morale of the people is down. Situations like these are perfect groundworks for ideologies or structures that can lift up a nation on its feet through reforms and healthy politics, or for deluded, resentful megalomaniacs to promote hate and chaos in the facades of unity and patriotism. Unfortunately, the second one gained in popularity. People needed to vent their hatred and bitterness. That's what National Socialism Party, or Nazi Party for short, gave them the opportunity to do, with their leader Adolf Hitler. For the grotesque actions and crimes which would follow, they needed a framework of lies to justify all of that. That's how we come to propaganda. The simple definition put, the spreading of ideas or rumors for the purpose of helping or injuring an institution, cause, or a person. And they perfected it to fascinating measures. Hitler, as their leader, knew the value of good propaganda, and he used it through all of his political life. He created a department in the Ministry of Germany dedicated to propaganda and appointed the man we saw at the beginning. Let us talk a bit more about him and his relationship with Hitler. Paul Joseph Goebbels was born on October 29, 1897 in Reich, Germany. Young Goebbels was exempted from service in the German army during World War I because of a foot injury he acquired as a young boy. Instead, he attended a series of German universities where he studied literature and philosophy. After university, things were rough for the young Goebbels. He tried to be a journalist, but failed. After that, a writer, but failed also. The year is 1920. Automatically you're going to be hit with a lot of other problems that I earlier mentioned. So if you add all that up, you will realize that it was not that hard in those circumstances to turn your heads to radical ideologies of the Nazi Party. And that's what he did. They welcomed him with open arms. Goebbels quickly ascended the ranks of the Nazi Party. In 1926, he became a party district leader in Berlin. The following year, he established and wrote commentary in the Angriff, a weekly newspaper that espoused the Nazi party line. In 1928, Goebbels was elected to the Reichstag. In January 1933, Hitler became the German Chancellor, and in March of that same year, he appointed Goebbels as the country's Minister for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. In this capacity, Goebbels had complete jurisdiction over all forms of German media. Oh, and how he enjoyed all of that power and recognition. The young weak Goebbels was now strong and mighty. He started directing movies. His idea or philosophy, so to say, of making propaganda material is that you don't push the narrative to the people. Instead, you mask it or camouflage it in entertainment, so it works more effective on the people. One of his first and most prominent works is a film in which he included his family, portraying the ideal Aryan family. A caring father around his children and his one and only wife. That was Joseph Goebbels. In the movies, at least. In his private life, he had dozens of affairs with the actresses. But one stood out and got the courage to say no to him.
Hat mich verfolgt. Wollte mich unbedingt haben als Frau, wollte mich zu seiner Geliebten machen und so weiter. Und war ganz und gar nicht mein Typ. Ich hatte gar keine Zuneigung zu ihm. Und das hat mir also nie verziehen, diese Ablehnung. Und das hat sich später immer mehr verschlimmert. War eigentlich, ich möchte sagen, beinahe ein Feind.
This is Leni Riefenstahl speaking about Goebbels in a 2002 documentary. Leni was also a very high prominent figure at that time, Hitler's personal director as they called her. She went on to make several movies for him, all propagandistic in nature. But the one that gained international attention was The Triumph of the Will, the most revolutionary, avant-garde movie ever made. And that's how it was presented. In reality, it was not that revolutionary in any aspect of it. All camera angles or camera movements, all techniques were already used by Russians decades earlier. What is worth mentioning is the budget which the film had. And that was mostly its main underlying idea. Look at us, how rich and powerful we are because of our Führer. And in case you didn't get it, here it is for 1.5 hours. Enjoy. Till this point, things were rather standard propaganda. By that I mean used for gaining political trust. Deception is a necessary evil. In hands of sane and smart people it gives you an advantage. But if you got evil and deluded leaders in charge of propaganda, you got a recipe for destruction. Now we'll take a look at one of these examples. As a political ideology, it had no clear, defined ideas. Nazism as a movement, from the beginning, was the emotional response, the resentful one, of the people to the crisis around them. They couldn't accept the loss, they didn't accept the consequences, so they tailored their own perfect world, their own culture, in which they are their own kings, and everyone else who is not them is just garbage and filth. And where you got filth, you got rats. Or Jews, in this case.
Foreign from us Europeans, born of totally different racial elements, they differ from us in body and above all in soul. Their home is Asia, from which they migrated in gigantic hordes over Russia and the Balkans into Europe. Suddenly, they'd spread over all of Europe. Toward the end of the 19th century, with the growing shipping traffic, they took possession of America as well, and eventually Africa and the Far East. Wherever rats turn up, they carry destruction to the land by destroying mankind's goods and nourishing diseases and plagues, such as cholera, dysentery, and typhoid fever. They are cunning and cruel, and usually appear in massive hordes. They represent the elements of sneakiness and among animals, just as the Jews do among mankind.
This should have been just another propaganda story. Just another brick in the castle of illusions. But it led to something truly catastrophic. After this film, the public opinion of Jews was at its highest low. And that's what Hitler used in its favor, to finally fulfill his prophecy of exterminating them.
Vor der Kaserne, vor dem großen Tor, stand eine Laterne und steht sie noch davor. So wollen wir uns da wiedersehen, bei der Laterne wollen wir stehen, wie einst wir lieben Marleen.